And something that what is it? You have that menorah. You got trying to go back in time to connect with what happened way back then. So the menorah represents a person. Now, the base of the menorah is our past, our genetics, our heredity, everything that we come to this world with. The stem of the menorah is a light, the light. Give me like 5 minutes. Thank you so much. And maybe like close the door. Thank you. And okay, and then the branches. So the outer branches are the branches that represent your youth, when you have lots of energy and you're running wild and you have so much time to do everything. And as we get older, we come in a little bit. It's our middle age. And as we get a little bit older, we're in the closer bracket. Less energy, less strength. Sorry. More spirituality. The closer you get in, that's where you get to the roots, right? That's when people start like
closer
really,
to the source.
Feeling that they don't have all the time in the world. As Ali said yesterday in her class, right? You never know when the last day of your life is going to be, when that last moment is. That's why we need to live every moment as if it's the last. Right? It's so beautiful to grow up. When my mother complains like I'm getting old, I'm like, isn't that what we all want? We want to get old. We want to get wrinkled. That is the point, okay? Botox, Schmotox, it's just like Adrienne Gold. She says, like all that we do in our generation to make ourselves like look good and young. She's like, it's like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. Okay, so my daughter is giving me this beautiful metaphorical explanation of the menorah and our lives. Now that the menorah is the face of a human being. And this is how we get back to our study, our topic of interpersonal relationships. We spoke about gossip. I shared with you, we spoke about gossip here, right? God wants us to speak in, but to speak less, process things, filter things. And even that mouth has two gates. It has the lips and the teeth to the tongue, right? So God is giving us messages in how he created us. But our face is also a menorah. We have the outer branch, the ears. We have the inner branch, the eyes. We have the closer one, the nostrils. And then the main core, the mouth. And we are a walking menorah in this world. We might not have the temple. We might not have the beautiful menorah that Moses, and God made together out of pure gold. We don't have that. But we have ourselves. And the Torah tells us that the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is really in our hearts. Bilvavi Mishkan Evneh. We build it. We carry it with us. When Corona shut down the world, I remember crawling into my bedroom. I locked the door. I went into my bed. I put the pillow over my head. I wanted to scream because everything was shutting down. Our synagogue shut down. Our school shut down. Our outreach organizations, everything shut down. The whole Jewish world the whole world shut down. And everything I had always known to be true in my core was coming. It was coming. The truth was coming up. It was boiling up to the top. That we are our Judaism. It's not the institutions. It's not anything external. God tells us in your heart is where you hold it. You are that walking menorah. You are that tabernacle, that holy, holy, sacred space. It's in your heart and it's in your homes. When everything shut down, the only thing that didn't shut down was the Jewish home, right? In our Judaism. I remember guiding people through making their first Passover Seders, but I've never done it before. It's on you. You could do it. And they did do it. Everyone did it. That was the year that there was the most Passover Seders held worldwide because everyone was doing it in their own home. God was saying, you got this. So that is the message of the menorah that even after Hanukkah is over, after we bring all this beautiful light for these 8 days, when it's all over, we continue shining our light brightly in this world. Our face is called Reshut HaRabim. It's public property. When we go out, wherever we are, we need to smile. We need to show a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name. I am a Jew. I represent Judaism. I am not going to do things that are not okay. I want people to look at me and say, wow, that is a Jewish woman. That is a Jewish child. That's how a Jew is. That's morality. That we're supposed to be the light onto the nations. We're not doing so well. We need to shine brighter. And we could. So now moving away from the menorah, I want to talk about women in Judaism. Now, I remember listening many years ago, Lori Palatnik, who's the founder of Momentum. She spoke about, she once shared a story. She took her daughters to Disney on Ice in Denver, Colorado. Did anyone hear her talk about this? And she was so upset because it was one story after the other, Cinderella and give me some Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Every single story had the same theme, that the woman was in distress and she was damsel in distress and she needed her knight in shining armor to come and save her. And she was so upset that she came home and she woke up her husband, who was the rabbi, and she said, does Judaism support this? Is this how we believe? And her husband said, no, it's actually the opposite. It's completely the opposite. Enter Hanukkah. Hanukkah comes in and we have the custom for the women. Okay, hear me clearly, guys, because you're going to milk this one tonight. The women are not allowed to work. No dishes, no suppers, no nothing. Put up your feet with your cushy slippers. Have someone bring you a tea. You are not allowed to work while the menorah is lit. At least half an hour. At least half an hour. We do like extra, like big olive oil. Like I built this. Okay. Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah.
Glass of wine. Definitely. You're gonna need a big glass of wine for that half hour. Okay. And our sages tell us, why is that? This is a law. This is Jewish custom. This is law. Women are not supposed to be working after they light the candles. The men are supposed to serve them. Men could work. Okay, they could do the dishes.
Wait, is this for any time a candle is lit?
No.
Shabbat?
She's already on Amazon. She's ordering bulk candles.
Oh, for 8 days in a whole year, a half hour? This does not seem very exciting, Eve.
If you want to take it a step further, on the day of Rosh Chodesh, which is once a month,
Okay.
that's also a festival for women, not men, and women are not allowed to work on Rosh Chodesh.
Okay.
Okay, you can milk this, Deborah. We can talk. Okay? There is no end. Okay, so why? Why are women not supposed to be working during this sacred time? And our sages tell us because it was through the women that the miracle actually occurred. I know we don't talk about this enough, right? We need to teach these stories to our children, not the princess in distress. Okay, so what happens during this time? In a nutshell, because the story I did read the whole entire story, and I was thinking of printing it out. I was actually thinking I would choose a few people and we'd like act it out, but there's not enough time for that. But I really encourage you to go to Chabad.org and look up Yehudi, which is actually my name. I'm Yehudi, that's my Hebrew name. True story. Even ask my mom, she's coming this week, she's coming tomorrow. She named me Yehudi. I'm born in the middle of Hanukkah. I got that name. She had no idea that Yehudi was the heroine of the holiday that I was born on. Had no idea. Remember, I once taught that when parents give a name, they get divine inspiration, like 1/60th of prophecy. So yeah, so I got this name for the holiday. And who was this lady? Who was Yehudit? So during this terrible time, and the story of Hanukkah happened over a very long period of time. And there were times that we were in hiding, the Maccabees were spinning their dreidels, trying to learn Torah. And there were times that these Maccabees said, we need to fight. But the things that we don't talk about is how the morale went so low. At a certain point, it was almost like a suicide mission. These few weaklings are going to be fighting this massive army? It made no sense. They had no chance. And yet, it was Yehudit the Jewish woman, same like in the times of Mitzrayim, that it was Miriam that came with her faith and said, we could do this. So Yehudit shows up on the scene. She's a very prestigious personality. She's the daughter of Yochanan, the high priest. She's a widowed lady. She shows up and she says, I have a plan. And she tells them the plan and they say, don't do it. It's so dangerous. It's not going to happen. It's just too much. And she says, I'm going to do it. And she has what we spoke about last night. We had a reunion for one of the past trips to Israel. And we spoke about the power of chutzpah, of holy chutzpah that is in our genes. It's in our DNA. We could be so chutzpahdik for the good. We need to for our kids. We need to for our marriage. We need to as a Jew. We need to stand up for ourselves. No one else will stand up for you. So this is what she does. And long story short, she uses her womanly ways. She goes into the camp of the Syrian Greeks, straight to the tent of the general. And she seduces him and she does her thing over a long time until he marries her. And she has free access to go back and forth and back and forth. And finally, in the right moment, when she sees that the Jewish people are giving up all hope, she comes in one day with a basket of salty cheeses, hence the menu over here, salty cheeses and very, very strong wines. And she's feeding him and she's feeding him. Oh, this cheese is so good. I'm so thirsty. Give me some more of that wine. And he is out cold, plastered on the floor. And she takes his sword and she says, Hashem, God, please help me. And she recalls at that moment the other woman that has done this before her. Her name is Yael. Look her up, powerful Jewish woman, who kills Sisera, also the big general that is out to get the Jewish people. She does it with a tent peg in his head, but Yael does it with the sword, and she cuts off the general's head. And she puts it in the basket, toodaloo, walks out of the camp. They hung the head on the post, and the whole army was so demoralized that they all fled. And it was time for the Jewish people to go in and to conquer, and Hashem was on their side, and they were victorious. So we need to know these stories. We need to teach these stories to our girls and to our boys. We need to know who we cover. I know it's a little scary when I'm like, I am Yehudit. I'm like, stay in there, Gadi. But we need to lean on our chutzpah and on our faith. That's always been the Jewish woman. So we really should celebrate this Hanukkah because we are them and they are us. And we have that same power inside us to bring forth better times, hope. There's always hope when you hope. Okay, so that is one of the messages of Chanukah. And now I'm gonna bring Gadi in. Gadi. Do you mind this? Okay. Sorry, Judith. Yeah. Wait, any questions? Okay. Would anyone like to fill up their plates before Gadi takes over? Fill up your plate. Now you can eat double as much because it's a mitzvah.
We get a little table.
Thank you so much for coming. I don't know what time it is.
What's she gonna say?
Oh yeah, totally. And also, just while Gadi is getting himself ready, I'm just gonna make a public announcement. Okay. So when everyone leaves today, if you have not yet taken one, these containers of applesauce are gifts to all of you for your latkes. And they're homemade, and it's just apples and pears and a squeeze of lemon and cinnamon. No sugar. Take them, enjoy them, and please take them and give them to other people. Okay, I want all of them gone. Oh, now? Oh, yeah.
Small business Saturday, whatever Monday. Today is really a day for next spot, and we also want all those like really get them up. We get any oh, anybody? I've already started. And I encourage you to leave and it's so
Thank you. And just by the way, I did not. I did. I've been asking if she could do this, and we've really been very careful not to ask anyone for anything, and you know what you see is what you get. So it's not like coming from the top; it's coming from the people, and we appreciate everything. We really do.
Everybody. Yeah. Okay. So today's class is dedicated in honor of Jacqueline, and Melissa, Nadine's daughters. They just got a great promotion, so congratulations. Thank you for joining us. And happy Hanukkah, everyone. I'm curious to know, will you share with me what you spoke like you? So why did I have to go next door? Okay, I want to start. So I really have. I'm gonna try and work as fast as I can. I'm gonna move these candles. Today's 2, right? Okay. Hi, Jeff. Okay, I'm going to work with, this is going to be a class that we're going to work through since it's Hanukkah. It's going to be a bit different. I'm going to ask 8 questions, and try and bring across one foundation, one point, and then see if we can work through all of those, all the questions with this one point, with this one new idea. And it may be controversial, and other people may not like it, and maybe I'm going to ask you to move next. Okay, question number 1. The festival of Hanukkah. The festival of Hanukkah happened during the Second Temple period. Halfway through the Second Temple period is when the Greek Empire pretty much controlled most of the world. They came into Israel. They took over most of the land of Israel. They took over Jerusalem, kicked most of the Jews out, stopped and started their whole rules against what the Jews were not allowed to do. A whole bunch of things that Jews were not allowed to do. Okay, and then we have the war, the Great War of the Hashmonaim, that fought against these hundreds of thousands of Greek soldiers, and then they came into the temple, and they found they could not find any jugs of oil that was still pure. They found one, and they lit the menorah, and that lasted for 8 days, right? Okay. That happened. So this miracle of them coming into the temple, what we're essentially celebrating is the ability of being able to relight the menorah. Okay. The question really is, how long did that lighting of that menorah last? How long were the Jews free in the land of Israel? How much longer? So the first temple lasted 400 years. The second temple lasted for about 400 years as well. The miracle of Hanukkah happened right around in the middle, around 250 years after the second temple was built. So how many years do they have left that they were actually free, independent, able to light the menorah? 150 years, about 150 years. If the celebration of Hanukkah is to celebrate the ability of relighting the menorah, it was extinguished forever, for at least from then until now, till today. Why do we still celebrate the festival of Hanukkah today if it ultimately did not last more than 150 years? Okay, so that's question number one. Why still today? Why still today? Question number two. This is a Kabbalistic perspective, but our sages talk about this, that the Jewish nation are a major foundation within the world. The entire history of the Jewish nation was foreseen right at the first two verses in the Torah. The first verse is Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the next verse, the world, v'haaretz, the world, hayta tohu, was dark, emptiness, vohu, void, v'choshech, and darkness, al panei tehom, over the face of the depths. Okay, emptiness, void, darkness, the face of the depths. Our sages say those four words, emptiness, void, darkness, face of the depth, refer to the four exiles that the Jewish nation went. The first is the exile of Babylon, okay, and that's called tohu, emptiness. Vohu is void. That was the exile of Persia. Choshech, darkness, is Greece, the exile of Greece. Al panei tehom, the emptiness of the depth, that refers to Rome, and that was the ultimate exile, which we are currently still existing, and that's why we call it the depth. Depth means tehom means bottomless pit, where we don't know when that exile is going to end. Okay, so we're celebrating the overcoming of the Greek Empire. What did Greece represent? Out of the four: emptiness, void, darkness, depth, dark. Fine. The Greek Empire represents darkness. Putting two question marks with regards to darkness. Tell me one empire that did not bring more light. Of ethics, the leaders of astronomy. Who are the leaders? Who are the founders? Who established all of these great, beautiful lights that exist in this world? Who are they? The Greeks. It all started through them. And yet, from the Torah's perspective, why is it called darkness? Okay, that's question number two. Darkness. Okay. Question number 3 is going to be this is a classical question that there's a reason why a lot of people don't like to walk into Orthodox synagogues is because of the M word. The M word. Very disturbing word, right? A lot of people don't like to walk into Orthodox synagogues about the M word. But we want to try and take our time to understand what is going on, the depth behind the M word. All that we have separating the men and the women. And we want to try and understand the M word. Should I just write M word or should I write mechitza? Does everyone know what we're referring to when we talk about mechitza? Okay, let's go back to Genesis. The 3rd verse says, 4th verse, God said, let there be light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated between light and dark, and God saw that light was good. Our sages say that original light that existed at the time of creation, it was a phenomenal light. It's not talking about the sun and the moon. It's not talking about the sun, at least, the source of that. Because the sun was actually created on day 3. So the creation of the light that existed on day 1 was not this light that we're familiar with. And what happened to that light was, our sages say that God saw this light was too powerful, and he saw that the generations of Noah and the Tower of Babylon, they're not going to use the light correctly, and God hid the light for the righteous for the world to come. God hid this light for the world to come. So clearly, this light is a light that is not beyond the natural type of light that we have in this world. Okay, so so we have the sun and the sun that was created on day 3. On day 1, God had this light, said, "Let there be light." That light was hidden. It was almost like we needed it. So first of all, why do you create the light if you're not going to use it? Right? And then it was hidden. So what is this light? How do we utilize it? Are we able to access this light? Okay, so we're just going to talk about this light that God hid in for the future. Number 5. So there's a law that says you don't go in. There are three reasons why one's allowed to sacrifice one's life: idol worship, sexual immorality, and murder. Okay, that's only 3 reasons why you go in. One should be willing to sacrifice one's life. What the Chashmonaim, the children of Matityahu, what they chose to do is they chose to go to fight a war that was definitely a loss. 12 people are going to fight thousands. Based on what? Did they feel it's worthwhile for me to sacrifice my life to try and fight this great, impressive army? Based on what are they going to do that? You're not allowed to go into a situation where you know you're going to lose. So what are they doing trying to fight this great war? Why are they going out and fighting the war? Okay, so this question, we'll just call it, why the war? Number 6. Okay, the whole story of the book of Hanukkah is actually put together in a book called Megillat Ta'anit. And that has the story of Hanukkah, and it has the story of Purim. Okay? It was written by Chizkiyahu, who is not the classical king Chizkiyahu, but Chizkiyahu ben Matityahu. So this book is called Megillat Ta'anit, the book of Ta'anit, of fasting. And we don't have much of it left, but it's called the book of fasting. And the question was, Why is it called the book of fasting? Because the people who survived these great miracles, they appreciated the fasting. Okay, the people who survived the times of the Greeks, they appreciated the fasting. So our question is, what are you talking about appreciating suffering? What are you talking about appreciating fasting? How do you appreciate the suffering that one goes through? Okay, I know it's a bit of a funny question, but I'm just going to put it down because I want to get any questions out. Fasting, suffering. They appreciated suffering. Number 7 is the famous question of the Beit Yosef. So how many days have we celebrated Hanukkah? 8. What's the real miracle? How much will they find? Last 4? 1 day. It's the question of the Beit Yosef. 7 days. I mean, like, for those of us who are on diets, I mean, we'd appreciate a day off, right? Okay, and the last question, now question number 8 is, what's going on? It's okay. Last question number 8 is, what is a bigger miracle? To have oil. Imagine these candles, we left them burning, and I found them tomorrow morning. Would it be a big miracle? Kind of. Yes, no, I don't know, right? Imagine 12 people going to fight an army of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. What is the bigger miracle? 12 people winning a war, overcoming a battle, or our candles surviving? Truly, would be a much greater miracle. So why are we establishing the festival of Hanukkah all about the candles? We should rather have a war show or something like that. So why the candles? Why candles? Okay. Questions are clear? First question number 1 was, why do we still celebrate Hanukkah today? What's this darkness that represented by Greek? What does Mechitza represent? What light? The light that God created. What is this light? What was that war? Oh, why do they go and fight a war when you're meant to look after your life? You're not meant to go and just sacrifice. You're only meant to do it in situations of idol worship, sexual immorality, and murder. But here they're going and sacrificing their life. Why are the authors of the celebration of Hanukkah and Purim, why are they represented as people who appreciated suffering? What is there unique about appreciating suffering? Why do we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days? It should be 7 days. And number 3, why are we celebrating the miracle of the candles? It should be the miracle of the war. Okay. Here we go. We're going to start with the Mechitza. Okay, and then half of you may leave. Okay, so I was recently in a meeting. Okay, now I understand. I told over this conversation to a couple of gentlemen this morning that completely understood exactly what I was saying. Okay, now I understand that this is not necessarily the way we see things, but men understood 100% exactly what happened. Okay, so I was in a meeting. I was in a very important meeting. Maybe you should go next time. She's gonna ask me details about this meeting. I'm gonna have to explain it. I was in a very important meeting, okay, with there was about 20 people, 15 people in the room. And
The story's changing already.
oh my gosh.
Last sentence in 10 minutes. We might want to think about this.
Okay, so this is what happened. I was in the meeting, and it was a very important meeting. We had the meeting, and after the meeting, okay, undoubtedly there was a woman who was in her mid-30s, and she was very pretty. Okay, let's just put it that way. Leave it at that. And I was speaking to someone afterwards, and I could overhear two gentlemen in their mid-50s, okay, and they were having a whole evaluation about this woman, about trying to understand, was she, he was getting like, yeah, she was, one guy knew that she was divorced, that he evaluated that because she's driving this big car, so she must have kids, and and like he was trying to, like, should he go out, should he try and hit on her or not because she's so pretty, and like the other guy was saying when she's wearing a wedding ring, the whole thing. They were having like a 15-minute conversation about whether they should hit, whether he should try and pursue this relationship with a relationship with this pretty girl, pretty woman, whatever, right? And I'm just thinking, we just had a meeting about something that very, very important, and what was going through at least two of their minds was this girl and how pretty she was, and that was like, and like, everyone, like, you understand that this is where the mind of men go, right? Okay.
Orthodox wedding, right? A lot of the Orthodox weddings, the women are on one side, the men are on the other side. And there are young girls there looking for their share, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So how do you?
What I'm trying to do is over here is, like, people call a mechitza something that is really separating. And what one needs to change is the perspective of what a mechitza is. What a mechitza is, it's an enabler of bringing close. Okay. Let me just, sorry. Okay. I was telling it to two gentlemen, and one guy says, I'm not going to mention names, but you do know that this is a conversation that happens on a regular basis with guys at certain temple X, Y, and Z after services or during services. Okay? A mechitza, when a person comes to the synagogue, the goal of the synagogue is for me to have a relationship between myself and Hashem. Me to have a relationship, a connection between God and I. Okay? Now, undoubtedly, we want everyone to be able to come and have that relationship and have that connection. What happens is that relationship or connection is going to be a struggle. Now, we can either say, well, you're just going to have to struggle it through, or you're going to have to control your hormones or whatever and really focus, or we're just going to simplify it because we really want to focus on prayer, and therefore we have what's called the mechitza, and we'll have separations. Okay, that is the way it is. What I'm trying to get across, it's like, oh my God. Is this concept of bringing close, not separating. Okay. When during the time of the first temple, it says King Solomon, he consecrated the first temple. It says the priest that brought in the Aron, that brought in the ark, they brought it into it, and as they did that, this heavy cloud descended, and everyone had to move out of the building. It says no one could enter into the temple because of the thickness of the cloud. And then King Solomon, who dedicated the temple, he got on his knees and he prayed. And he said, Hashem amar lishkom ba'arafel. God said to dwell in a thick cloud, in the darkness of a cloud. Right? So there's this concept that when we see a strong presence of God, when we see a strong presence of spirituality, in order for that spirituality to come close, we need what is called a mechita, a separation, a veil in order to bring close. Okay, does that make sense? We see it by Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai, during the giving of the Torah, there was like the greatest concentration of God's presence in this world. During the giving of the Torah, there was thunder and lightning and loud noise and darkness, choshech, anan varafel, everything in order for God to descend into this world. And that is why I brought my show and tell. Does everyone know what this is? Does anyone know what this is? That's right. This is my welding helmet. Okay, so now. I'm in Star Wars. That's right. Guess we the person who wrote Star Wars, he was a great welder. Okay, so basically, what does this do? Okay, when you weld, you bring these two chemicals together, you create this phenomenal light, which actually what it does is you're taking one metal and you're fusing it together with another metal, right? In order to do that, you need a phenomenal amount of energy and electricity or power, whatever it is, and that creates a huge light. Okay, looking at the light with your regular eye, with a naked eye, it will blind you. Not immediately, will definitely happen over a period of time. So what we have over here is the helmet. And this is a really good one. So it actually changes. I can actually see through it until there's the bright light and it goes dark. But what they have is, it's a glass which is completely black, that when you weld, that bright light will come through, will penetrate through as a not so bright light, and you can weld, right? The people that dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what they actually did, there's their diary, and they said they were told to put on these dark glasses and to drop the bomb. They dropped the bomb, put on the glass, and they dropped the bomb, they put on the glass and waited 12 minutes. 12 minutes. After 12 minutes, they went completely blind, and they had goggles that were completely blacked out. But out of the light, such bright light, they were completely blind. And they were flying in the blind for a whole bunch of time until they started to be able to see again. Right? So what we have this concept is that in order for bright light to exist, you need darkness in order to utilize it. You need filters in order to utilize it, in order for it to penetrate. Does that make sense? Okay. Oshech, darkness. When we talk about Greek Empire, what the Greeks did, they brought beauty, they brought art, they brought wisdom, they brought science, they brought astronomy. They developed all these concepts, but the one thing they refused to develop or to bring was the recognition of a spirit in the world. The whole thing, and what they were working against, what the Greek army was working against the Jewish nation, they had no problem with them the Jews living their lives. They just say, don't integrate the spiritual aspect to your lives. Don't integrate this concept that you should fix the body by having a bris, by having a spiritual attachment. Don't go to the mikveh because that shows that there's a spiritual element to your sexual relationship. Don't have these concepts of a Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of a new month, that says that you have a spiritual connection to time. They're all trying to erase the concept of spirit. That is the darkness that Greece Empire, that Hashmonaim saw. Okay. What was the miracle? What did they see in order to penetrate? I have 10 minutes. How much time do you have? 5 minutes. I probably get 5 minutes. Well, so what did the Hashmonaim see? What they saw was that there was so much darkness, they realized that, you see, if we're in a world, if we live in a universe that God does not exist, then so much darkness brings in fear. Why does it bring in fear? Because in order to penetrate and to move away the darkness, you have to push a lot. What the Hashmonaim saw is everything in nature is round. Everything in this world is round, which means that the further you go away from the beginning point, the closer you come to it. So if one is right over there, you're so far from that point, but technically, really, you're so close. Darkness is a filter which enables a very close expression of godliness in this world. So the Maccabees, what they did was they recognized there's so much darkness going on over here. They weren't fighting against the darkness, they were being inspired by the darkness. It wasn't despite the darkness, it was through the darkness that they penetrated through and fought and went and recognized. And that's what their inspiration was. They saw so dark that there was complete annihilation of any sort of spirituality in this world. They were like, there's so much darkness, there must be in that right behind this darkness, just a little bit, you'll find all that light that one wants. Right? And that's what we celebrate the candles. We celebrate the candles in that it's not about the war, it's about the light. It's not about the military success that the Jewish nation were able to overcome. It was really about the war. It was really about the light. So that is where we come back to our original question. Question number one was, why do we still celebrate today? And therefore, 7 days and the suffering. So the suffering, what is the concept of suffering? Suffering, you can see greatness of people in times of difficulty. You see the greatness. You really see people's greatness when they go through challenges. Right? It's nice when everything is going well and you see a couple that are doing great. Fine. You don't know how strong that relationship is. You see them go through a tremendous difficulty, a huge loss, whatever it is, and you see them still strong. Then you really know that they're strong. That they've got a strong relationship. Through suffering, through challenges, through darkness, you see people's real strength, and that's what we're celebrating with Hanukkah. With regards to the 7 days and 8 days, I'm going to give you one of the answers, and this is just an inspiration for us. One of the answers is, so why do we celebrate? The question was, why do we celebrate 8 days? It was just a 7-day miracle. So the answer is that when they found the oil in the temple, they divided the oil. They knew it would take 8 days in order to produce new oil. So what they did was they took the oil, and they divided one jug of oil, they divided into 8. On day 1, they poured 1/8 of the oil into the water, and they lit it. Now it was only meant to light through just a small section of the night, and it lasted the whole night. Day 2, they put a little bit more, and lasted the whole night. By day 8, it was complete, and it lasted the whole night. So it really was a miracle that happened for 8 days. Why is that an inspiration for us? The inspiration we need to remember is that when we're going through challenging times, we just need to put in a little bit of effort and not immediately give up. Just put in a little bit. It's very dark. Just put in a little bit of effort. It's so easy to give up, especially when it's hitting us and we can barely breathe. We just need to put in a little bit of effort. Our sages tell us the story that Rabbi, one of the sages saw Rabbi Akiva. He was on a boat and he saw the boat. It went through a storm. It hit a rock, and the whole ship had sank. And he said, "It hurt me that I saw the death of Rabbi Akiva." And then he said, "I met him later on along the shore. He's like, I was very happy that I saw Rabbi Akiva actually survive." He said, "How did you survive?" He said, "I found a plank of wood. There was a storm." He said, "Every time a wave came over me, I put my head down and let the wave break. I lifted my head up. And then when the next wave came, put my head down and let it break." It's this concept of like, we have to fight everything right away. When there's a lot of darkness, recognize that there is light right behind it. And then also, you just need to put in a little bit of effort. Put in that effort, be inspired, find that little inspiration, and we'll break through. And that's why we celebrate the miracle with the candles. Because the candles is really what our inspiration is. Believe it or not, if someone forgot to light candles the night before, one doesn't go and light during the day. You don't go and make a blessing out during the day. Because the mitzvah of lighting candles is really, it needs to be at night. It needs to be an expression of light through the darkness. That's the goal. That miracle and that energy is what we have. And we need to remember it, and that's why we celebrate Hanukkah today, even though we don't have a temple, even though we don't have much going on for us spiritually. But it's this concept that even though when it's very dark, we can push away the darkness with a little bit of light. Thank you all for joining me. My wife said I should take some questions on any subject. Any questions? Any questions?
I can share something about a platform.
Okay.
About the pizza.
Yeah.
So I do, so, or, I realized how comfortable it was for them, because otherwise, you know, it's policy together and how strongly we were together. And also at the same time, when there was dancing, the separate. They're on their own.
I hear.
So, kind of.
It's a
A
kindness. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. My real goal is I want you to walk away from this concept is that a mechitza is, if you change your perspective, a mechitza is something that enables us to bring close without too much of a strong influence either way. Remember this concept of my helmet. It's in order. What did you say?
My neshama is going to school. That's all I have. Yes, my son, my husband goes to move to the show, so back to them, I do. I'm not. And people at the opposite, I had that.
Look, it is a different feeling on the opposite of it. Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the good news. I missed the class yesterday, but there should be no judging. I think God is what should work, right? Well, guys, where does the mechitza come from? Where's the original?
The original mechitza was actually at the time of the temple when they have dancing at the time of the temple and in the Beit HaMikdash, they would have separate dancing at the temple. There was the Simchat Beit HaShoeva. There was dancing, and what they did was they had a separation because I'll say what you may. Okay, if you've been to I mean, I've been to many weddings of separate weddings. Okay, when people are dancing with the groom and the bride, when men are just dancing with the groom and women are just dancing with the bride, they're celebrating each other. They're really celebrating them. You know, you're a single guy that's of marriageable age and whatever. When he's dancing, he's really celebrating the groom, and that's it. He's got nothing else. He's not trying to show off for anyone. He's really celebrating, and it's a genuine celebration. Bring in a whole bunch of pretty girls right there. It's different, right? So the mechitza is, I mean, like, and like,
Guys, I mean. Guys. Just be fair.
it's different, right? It's different. And what we're trying to do is trying to keep a sense of purity or genuine connection. So that's, you wanted to ask a question.
I wanted to say,
It is- It is, I know. Guys have hormones. You wish. Yeah. True. I know, you know.
In a perfect world. But
I'm gonna. I don't go like I don't. I'll take it. I'll take you one more step. Okay, you find me one movie. Find me one movie where the sex scene. Since my wife is that. Find me one movie where the sex scene is between a couple who are married to each other. Find me one where the sex scene is between a couple who are married to each other. You know what drives the world? We do. We are striving. And that's why, I mean, I don't know. Okay, I leave it at that. It does. I know, it's disturbing. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. I agree 100%. Thank you, everyone. Any questions online? We're good?